Candace Owens at this point is a full-on supporter of Putin and Russia. So Candace Owens has come out and has claimed that Zelensky is a tool for the globalist agenda. Now, you know how conservatives are big time anti-globalists. I personally am not in favor of globalism. Never been a fan. Can't say I care too much for it. I love my country. I love being in my country. I love having my own country to be in. However, Candace has been taking massive shots at the president of Ukraine, insisting that he's a globalist. And many other people on the conservative wing have been insinuating that Ukraine is under some sort of spell of wokeness. And in order to cleanse Ukraine of its woke spell, Putin needs to be allowed to just rampage through and blow everything up and conquer the nation. Candace went on to claim that Ukraine is a fictional country created up by Russia.
And because there is no difference ethnically from Ukrainians and Russians. Obviously, Ukraine wasn't a thing until 1989. Ukraine was created by the Russians. It was, they speak Russian. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And again, this entire episode has been exposing to you how ignorant people are about the goals of Vladimir Putin.
Russia did create the nation of Ukraine. However, the capital of Ukraine, Kyiv, has been around much longer than Moscow. And the people of Ukraine do not speak Russian, as she claims. The people of Ukraine speak their own language. Some Ukrainians, a lot of Ukrainians, do in fact speak Russian. But the Ukrainian people have their own language, their own identity, and want to be free. They do not want to be under Russian rule. The last month of warfare in Ukraine has shown us that fact. The last 2 months have shown us the fact that the Ukrainian people do not want to be under Russian rule or Russian subjugation. This is a fact that doesn't care about your feelings. Now, she tweeted out that Russian lives matter due to the sanctions that Russian individual citizens have been facing. Russian businessmen, Russian citizens living in Russia. Because of what Russia is dealing with right now, she came out and said Russian lives matter as a mockery of Black Lives Matter. Now, anyone who's familiar with Candace knows that anything affiliated with Black, Candace does not want anything to do with. Candace, I don't think I've ever seen Candace hanging around with Black people. I've never seen Candace kicking it with Black folk. She very rarely interacts with the Black community. It's not something that she just wants to be a part of for the most part. So her mocking BLM is not much of a surprise to me. And her mocking BLM in such a manner as painting BLM as similar to a nation stripping the rights and self-determination of another nation away through invasion, the fact that she can try to conflate those two as a joke off of one another, it just goes to show you what's going on in that brain of hers. Now, even if these claims of mine were not true, even if these claims of the Ukrainians being a distinct culture, even if these claims of the Ukrainians just not wanting, just to say Ukraine was a fictional country that just came out of thin air, wasn't there last week, popped up there this week, and it's a thorn in Putin's side. How does that somehow or another remove the Ukrainian people's right to freedom and self-determination? How does that somehow or another take away their right to not be subjugated and invaded simply because you believe they're too woke for you or they're too globalist for you? There's this idea that if a nation does not abide by 100% conservative ideals, it's somehow a threat and needs to be destroyed at all costs. Conservatives at this point are willing to destroy America's global dominance in exchange for getting rid of wokeness. It's so obsessed with this market scheme, this game, that it thinks the entire world is playing the game with them. People like Candace Owens need to understand that this is not a game of woke and conservative. This is a game of geopolitics, and you cannot sit there and support our enemy subjugating, subduing, and destroying a nation that wishes to align itself and ally itself with us simply because you think they're too left for you. And Candace doesn't explain or illustrate her issues with Zelensky. For some reason or another, she just does not like him. For some reason or another, Putin is her main man. That's who she's riding for. And that's who she wants to win this war, apparently. But it all boils down to the fact that if you are pictured with some of the wrong people, or you're considered too left-wing, for some reason or another, you all of a sudden deserve to be invaded by Russia. And the conservative narrative is this. Russia gave Ukraine an option. Russia gave Ukraine an ultimatum, and Ukraine should have listened to Russia. They should have listened. Russia is defending itself. Russia is simply looking out for its own interests. I think that a lot of conservatives are so caught up in this childish game of arguing with little white kids at college campuses, they're forgetting the fact that Ukrainians are not obligated to do anything Russia tells them to. The United States is still here, and we are the ones that they wanted to do business with. We are the ones that they wanted to work with. We are the ones that they wanted to be aligned with, and they paid and are paying a steep and hefty price. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we are going to stick our necks out for them in the way that they stuck their necks out for us by giving up their nuclear weaponry. It's unfortunate to see. But the idea that Putin is the victim here, just like Greg Gutfeld tried to assert, just like Tucker Carlson tried to assert, Putin is not the victim, no matter how conservative he might seem, no matter how pro-Christian values and how pro-normalcy he might be, he is still our geopolitical enemy. He is still our geopolitical enemy. No matter how hard he might ride for your political side, he is still our enemy. And by no means should people like Candace Owens be supporting Putin in any way, shape, or form. But it just goes to show how deep Russian money is in the conservative party, in the conservative group in America. There is no denying that the Russians, if they were to align themselves with either group, it would be the conservatives, because conservatives have lost their sense of viciousness. They've lost their sense of animal instinct when it comes to politics. The moment they sniff some sort of conservatism, they let their guard down. Ooh, Russians, they're anti-LGBTQ. They're anti-trans. Russians are so traditionalistic and so Christian, and so you're so caught up in the smoke and the mirrors, you don't see them plotting to overthrow you and establish themselves as the global power in the world. But because you're so caught up in us versus them, you're so caught up in the marketing scheme that you've been playing for the last 5 years, you can't see the game that Putin is playing. Putin couldn't give a damn about how conservative Candace is. The only thing that matters to him is getting his message out and getting a sympathetic viewpoint of what he and the Russians want in the Kremlin done. And if people like Candace are willing to get that done for him, he doesn't care. So, all in all, what we can take away from this is that Candace, like usual, has no idea of what she's talking about. She's articulate, she's intelligent, but she very rarely ever knows what she is talking about. And it is unbelievable that she could reach this level of success despite being unbelievably uninformed. But that is the case. Time and time again, conservatives conflate conservative values with some sort of a friendship. That's not how that works.